know, if you want to call it attention, you may.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to bring this meeting to order. Can I please, Commissioner Mason, would you please do the invocation? Excuse me, Miss Valerie, could you please do the invocation?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord God, for this opportunity. Lord, we ask that you would just search our hearts right now. Lord God, that we will make sound decisions concerning our residents and this housing authority. We say thank you now. Lead and guide us in all truth. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Meredith, Commissioner Mason, here. Commissioner Morgan, here. Commissioner, City Commissioner Jen Ahern Cott.
Present.
Okay, can I have a motion for the acceptance of the minutes from September 24th?
So second.
Second? Okay, thank you. Can we have acceptance of the agenda for today?
Oh, we didn't vote on it.
Excuse me?
You had a
Oh,
motion
I'm
and a
sorry, I
second.
apologize. Okay, yeah, first and second. Is all in favor? Anyone against? Thank you. Okay, can we have a motion for the acceptance of the agenda for today?
Motion.
Okay. Second, okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we have special presentations, and the first is going to be the team member of the quarter. Thank you. Oh, wait. No, I don't. No.
It's there. It's in the book. It's after the,
Oh, here it is.
Thank you. Okay, team member of the quarter is Lakeisha Tart.
she's on the,
Hello, let's start. Okay, third quarter of 2025. She was hired a little over a year ago, July 2024, as Sarasota Housing Authority Youth Academic Attendance Coach for the Resident Service Youth Thrive Program. Lakeisha is a strong team player who brings a positive attitude, curiosity, and optimism to her role and her relationship with our youth and families. 2 weeks into our full-day summer enrichment program, she unexpectedly became solely responsible for the day-to-day operations. She smiled, stepped up, embraced the challenge, and ran one of the best summer programs to date. She actively seeks to contribute to the program's success by readily offering to learn more and assume more responsibilities. She models an always pleasant attitude, professionalism, and strong communication skills. We are grateful to her for the dedication she has shown thus far in being and doing her best as a member of the resident service team. We congratulate her on this honor. Thank you. We appreciate you. Would you like to say something?
Thank you, Lakeisha. She muted?
she's muted. No, she's just really soft. Lakeisha, your sound is very soft. Could you turn up your sound?
Do you have the computer volume up, Andrea?
I can hear you, but everyone in the room cannot.
She took Johnson's place.
No, she worked alongside Charles.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Does she know we can't hear her?
She said, thank you. That's all I could get.
And she's in the middle of the after-school program as well, but Andrea, we're gonna have a problem if we can't hear any of the presenters.
Well, I'm wondering if it's just the mic. Thanks, Lakeisha.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you for
Thank you.
what you do.
I have Attorney Gilmore say something.
Okay, now we're gonna go. The next is the annual
He's
audit.
talking and I can't.
Oh, Rick.
Oh, wow.
Try now, Attorney Gilmore. So they can hear us, but we're not able to.
Change the speaker, sir?
Andrew, can you get that?
Yep, we got it.
Oh, God, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next again is the annual audit. Rich Larson.
Yeah.
Well, hello, Commissioners. Good afternoon.
Hello.
And, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. I see you do have a full house, so it is a very good audit report. I'll try to be brief. Maybe I'll share my screen. It doesn't look like I can share my.
Yes, you
actually,
can. We just.
Oh yeah, I can. Okay. Is that okay? Is the screen sharing up? Everybody can see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll try to be brief. As I mentioned, it's a very, very positive report, so I just want to make sure we hit all the bases. So there's 3 reports in the package. The first report that's on your screen is page 1 of the audit report if you are following along with the hard copy. And this is our report of independent auditors. And this is where we give an opinion on the financial statements of the authority. And I should let you know that the authority's reporting entity consists of the Housing Authority as you know it, all its programs, and then the entities that it controls wholly, like the Sarasota Housing Funding Corp., Janie Poe Associates, that's called the primary government. And then also the authority has accountability for all the tax credit entities. So they are also included in this financial, in the report. They're separated so you can differentiate between each of the entities, the primary government and the tax credit entities, but we're required to include them in our audit report. So the good news in this second paragraph, we give what's called an unmodified opinion on the authority's financial statements. And with that, we say, in our opinion, based on our audit and the reports of other auditors, because we don't have to audit those entities again. The tax credit entities all have separate auditors, and so we're allowed to take those auditors' reports and include them here. We just have to notate that in our report. So we say, in our opinion, based on our audit and reports of other auditors, financial statements present fairly in all material respects to that position of the primary government, which is the housing authority, and its aggregate discretely presented component units, which are the tax credit entity. So that is a very positive outcome. It's the highest level of assurance that we can give as auditors, and it's something you should be very happy with. The second report that I want to bring to your attention is our audit in accordance with government auditing standards, and that is on, well, actually the reason we have to do the next two audits is because of the level of expenditures of federal awards that the authority has. So because you have in excess of $750,000 of federal awards, federal expenditures, the authority actually has $37 million of federal expenditures. We're required by law to do a government auditing standards report and a uniform guidance report. I'll get to that in 1 second. And what I have highlighted here on the screen are the programs that we had to test for compliance. I audited about 85 housing authorities across the country. A lot of times it's only one program that gets audited, but just the way the federal audit program fell for the housing authority, we were required to test 5 programs, which really constituted about 93.7% of your federal awards, almost $35 million. So needless to say, this was a very, very thorough audit. We probably drove your staff crazy with all the compliance requirements by testing 5 programs. This really put an incredible burden on them, which they did really, really fantastic about. So page 45 is our government auditing standards report. The first part of this audit is where we document and test the authority's internal control. And when I talk about internal control, I'm really talking about what are the processes that the authority has in place to safeguard authority assets. How does the authority safeguard cash and fixed assets and equipment and so forth? So we're testing, right, cash receipts process, cash disbursement process. We're testing your procurement process to make sure that things that are supposed to be going out to bid go out to bid. We read the minutes to the board meetings because the board sets policy, sets internal control. And so we read your resolutions. If the board passes a resolution to hire a certain contractor at a certain rate, we're going to make sure the staff followed through with that. And out of the hundreds of items we tested, we noted one thing. When we looked at the audit for Amaryllis, the tax credit partnership, there was a note payable on their books that was payable to the authority. Wasn't on our books, so we noted that and we put that note receivable on our books, and so we noted that in our audit report. We're also required to test the authority's compliance with laws and regulations. The authority was incorporated to do certain things to provide affordable housing. So we as your auditors are making sure you're following your mission, you're enabling legislation as a housing authority. We're making sure you're following state of Florida laws, HUD regulations, and things like did you file your payroll taxes on time? Now we're looking for material non-compliance. So, if you didn't dot an I or cross a T on a payroll tax return and you got a $150 penalty, that's not something we would report to the board. But if it was a $10,000 penalty, it's something we would report. And the great news here is we say the results of our test disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government standards. Fantastic outcome, highest level of assurance that we can give there. And finally, the last report is on page 47. And this is where those 5 programs that I pointed out before, your Housing Choice Voucher Program, Mainstream Program, Emergency Housing Choice Voucher, I think it was public housing, and also Choice Neighborhoods Program. So we had to give an opinion on all those programs. And literally within those programs, there's hundreds of compliance requirements that we had to review. And the great news here is we give what's called an unmodified opinion on your compliance with all those programs. That is a fantastic outcome. It's one you should not take for granted because, as I mentioned, there are hundreds of compliance requirements that can cause a qualified opinion. Really an accomplishment by the staff that we were able to give a clean opinion when we audited 5 programs for compliance. So that is really a fantastic outcome. Real quick, if I can talk about the financial statements of the authority. Page 11 is your statement of net position. For those of you that are familiar with business, it's like your balance sheet. It's a picture of time as of your fiscal year-end date of March 31st, 2025. And you can see the first column is the primary government, and that's what we're going to talk about. The second column are the discretely presented component units, which are the tax credits. Now, if you're interested in that, we did a combining schedule after these basic financial statements, and you can look at all the different tax credit entities that roll up into this column right here. That you add them all together, it totals into this column. But for now, for this meeting, we're going to just talk about the primary government, the housing authority, and the entities that it wholly controls. When I talk to boards, housing authority boards, the most important thing to manage and to worry about is your liquidity. When I talk about liquidity, I'm really talking about what is your ability to pay bills as they become due. Because housing authorities have millions and millions of dollars of assets. Most of those assets are tied up in buildings and notes receivable like you have here, and you can't refinance a building to make payroll, so you need to have liquidity. And how HUD measures liquidity is they look at your current assets, which is $20,665,000 here, of which most of that is sitting in cash, which is fantastic. So $20,000 million in current assets, and jumping to page 12, you have only about $2.2 million of current liabilities, which is what you owe out currently in the current year. So if you do the math, current assets less your current liabilities, you get about $18.468 million. And you might want to say, well, that sounds great, but for a housing authority your size, is that good? Is that a great number, or is it a bad number? And that represents over, given your overhead levels, that represents over 2 years worth of reserves. And that is a very, very strong number. HUD says if you have between 4 and 6 months of reserves, that's good. You have over 2 years. So that indicates, that's not something that happened this accounting cycle. That has been years and years of good management building up those reserves. So the good thing is you have reserves. The bad thing is most of those reserves are stuck in federal programs. I shouldn't say stuck, but they've accumulated in federal programs, and those programs have restrictions. You can really only use those funds for certain purposes. But I will say, we're in a government shutdown right now. I've seen a lot of information come across my desk about cutbacks to various HUD programs. So I will say that this housing authority is in very, very good shape to weather the storm, which is probably coming to HUD over the next, you're there now, and over the next couple of years. I think there's really going to be challenges with the public housing budget, the capital fund budget, maybe, voucher administrative fees. But the long and short there is because you've had good financial management over the last several years, you're in very, very good shape to weather that storm with $18 million in reserves. Page 13 is your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in that position. That's what a government calls your P&L, basically. And what I have highlighted in green, I just wanted to point out, the authority had operating revenues of $42 million, 42.2, operating expenses of only 38.5, rounding, and we showed operating profit of $3.8 million, which on $42 million is really a very strong number. And one of the things I always like to point out to housing authority boards is, what did it cost you to operate a housing authority this year? Annually, to turn the lights on, open the doors, it costs $7.2 million. These are all the items I highlighted in gold are really considered your overhead. So $7.2 million annually divided by 12, about $600,000 a month, really, to run the housing authority. And you see, if you have about $18 million worth of reserves, which we talked about, you can see it's over 2 years worth of overhead in those programs. And real quick, just your statement of cash flows is on page 14. You can see you generated cash of $1 $1,881,000. So a lot of times when you earn money, that's on the accrual basis. The cash doesn't come in exactly the way you earn it. So what we do is a cash flow statement to show you how money came in and out of the authority. Cash came in and out over the course of the year. So you earned about $1.8 million from operating activities. You used $1.2 million from capital and another $1.2 million in certain investing activities. You know, you issued a note receivable to that Amaryllis tax credit partnership of about $1.5 million. And overall, your cash position did decrease about $609,000. You know, as I mentioned, I think it's a very, very strong report. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. If anybody has any questions, I'd love to take them now. I know this is a lot to take in. So I work for the board. If you want to email me, you want to call me, I'd be happy to hear from you, answer any of your questions. And I would like to add, you know, my staff is incredibly complimentary of the staff you have there in the Sarasota Housing Authority. As I mentioned, we order 85 housing authorities across the country. We get what we need when we ask for it. We have really run-of-the-place, all the files. We don't have to go through William to ask for a file. We get them right from the people we ask them for. And I think the results of this audit really reflect that cooperation. So with that, let me turn it back to the chairperson, and you can ask a question.
Commissioner Morgan?
So, you know, there's two things. One, I want to say, I think some people forget that this housing authority, when it was under receivership, was insolvent. So when we see like 2 years of reserves, you know, I mean, it did happen overnight. It took 20 years, you know, of good financial management to build those reserves. Now, Rich, my question for you is, can you tell us the importance of having unrestricted cash?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So number one, and I did touch on it a little bit, you know, we're in a government shutdown, and really nobody knows what will happen, because at the end of December, the subsidy stops. So January 1, there will be no subsidy. I'm thinking that's going to be a long shot. I think the government's going to open in the next couple weeks. That's kind of what I've been hearing. But regardless, there will be cutbacks to public housing, cutbacks to capital fund. So you may need unrestricted reserves to subsidize those programs, those federal programs. You know, you do have quite a bit of reserves there, so hopefully you won't need to go that far down. But one of the big issues is you have 6 tax credit entities that are in various stages through their tax credit compliance period. You may want to buy those back and get those back when they're when they've gotten all their tax credits. And there's a formula to do that. And you have to pay the exit taxes of the investor to get them out. I don't know what that would cost. I mean, I've seen it cost several $100,000. I've seen it cost in the millions, but probably not millions. So that is definitely, and the more cash you have, the better deal you're going to get if you decide to do new tax credits. So number one, you can buy them back. You need to have the cash to buy them back. And then number two, if you're doing new development, you can only use unrestricted cash for that. So if you still have 100 or so public housing units. My advice to my clients has been, you really want to get out of the public housing program. Unfortunately, the public housing program does not have lobbyists like the Section 8 program does, where you have a lot of private landlords, large private landlords, making sure their rent doesn't get cut. The public housing, seems like that program always gets cut. And so if you get out of that program, get into the voucher program, utilizing a Section 18 blend or a RAD, a rental assistance demonstration program, you will need cash to do it, but you'll get out of the public housing program and you'll stabilize your subsidy and your rent going forward with automatic increases, OCAF increases. Insurance has been another big issue with a lot of our clients in the Southeast and the Southwest. You know, a lot of them are going to self-insurance because insurance has just gone through the roof with natural disasters and things like that. So, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of reason to have reserves. Now's not the time I'd probably, be aggressive in spending those reserves, only because of the uncertain time ahead. But I don't know if I answered your question. I can maybe get a little more specific. I can think of.
No, I just, I know people will see that number and they're like, wow, that's a lot. And, when you see the 18,
Yes.
it's silo money management, right? So we can only use it for that program. It's not like we can just do whatever
That's
with everything. But the unrestricted, it's taken us, like I said, 20 years to save that. And, one of our strategic plan, this is it, like over here, we're going to talk about it today, but like we don't have any more land. And so there's even things like going and purchasing land because at some point we got to go somewhere else, So, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, and the important thing is with that is even if you looked at tax credit new properties, you'll always have to utilize seed money first. So you have to usually acquire the land, you do a lot of pre-development first, and then down the line you may get that back from an investor, but usually that's up front, a lot of money up front.
And a lot of our land was purchased, 40, 50, even more.
Yeah, well, as an example, Rich and board, I was on a call this morning with Jeff Lines from TAG Associates, and he's reviewing all the partnership agreements and stuff for Janie's Garden Phase 2, which is coming to the end of the tax credit, 15-year tax credit compliance this year. So we're talking to the investor about, them exiting the partnership. And if you read it, in terms of exit taxes and stuff that we may have to pay out to them, it's about $750,000 to acquire Janie's Phase 2. Hopefully we can negotiate them down from that, but that's an example of a situation where, we already own Phase 1. Of course we want to own Phase 2 and then Phase 3. So we would need unrestricted cash to acquire that from the investor. And then pivoting to Phase 3, we want Michaels to exit as general manager of that partnership, even though the investor is going to stay in place until year 15. But in order for us to get the general partner to exit, we're going to have to be underwritten by the state and the investor, as well as getting HUD approval to get the general partner to exit. And so that's another reason why we need unrestricted cash. In fact, Jeff Line said we may have to purchase like a clawback policy to satisfy the investor in the event that the property goes into default and they potentially lose their credits. So they want us to put up guarantees, which of course we could only do with unrestricted, non-federal funds. So, and those are just two of the transactions coming up.
Yeah, in general, if you have cash on hand, you may not have to purchase the bond or the insurance. If you don't have any cash, you definitely will have to do that. So that is a good reason to have that cash on hand for that purpose alone.
Commissioner Morgan, do you have another question?
No, I had one more comment though. So on the audit, and I just want to say, good job to the staff. So
Thank you, yes.
they test 32 files and they found one error of $50 on those 32 files. So that's
That's awesome.
yes. That's
So-
pretty impressive.
It's actually a little more impressive than that.
I do file audits, so I've seen all these things and the worst. And when I saw that, I was just like, that's amazing. So Go ahead, sorry.
So, yes, because we found one issue in that one program, but we tested files in other programs
Sure.
and had no issues. And I'm almost embarrassed to report it, but we're required to. I mean, it was one issue in one file. It didn't cause us to qualify an opinion. Minimal question cost there. But we're required to just report whatever we find in our sample, because our samples were assuming zero exceptions.
And I'm sure you've seen it where, people don't put stuff in the file and you just get like a giant hunk of paper,
Yes.
And they're like, here you go. So, yeah.
Yes,
pretty
I
incredible.
have lots of stories. This is an incredibly strong, very, very positive order.
So I just want to say that's like awesome for you and your staff.
Any other questions, concerns? We would like to thank you so much for the audit and all the good information you gave us. Thank you.
And thank you. And everybody, have a great day, and
Okay.
thank you for having
You
us.
too.
Thank you.
Okay, we want to move on to City Commissioner Liaison update, please.
I have nothing.
Nothing, okay. And now our County Commissioner Liaison update.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you for having me.
Commissioner Smith, thank you.
Chair's a little low. Thank you this morning or this afternoon. What I've have for you there. I had some questions, and it was fortuitous that I was here during the audit report. As you all know, we all got a rather disturbing email from a gentleman that used to work here, and the only item that I'm concerned about as the county commissioner is the maintenance of the units, and that was one of the comments he made. And then when I had gotten a board packet from y'all, you do have a very strong cash position. And as, again, it's the county commission who reviews requests for money, not only from y'all, but every entity that says we'd love to have help from the county. We ask for a position, a cash position, because we don't want to award money to folks that make a wonder, and we want to make sure that we give to folks that there's a genuine need. And so that was the question I had, and on the first page of this packet, that we're not going to go over the whole thing, but I'm just going to pick some examples, because that's. But the first thing is talking about the cash. The unrestricted that we were talking about. I would request you all, if you could, for me, to be able to get to me, email me, the board's cash position process statement. I'm sure somewhere in your documents you have what your cash reserves are for and how they're to be spent. And I would include the restricted also for each one. And the reason I'm talking about that is that I want to make sure, which goes to the second part of my presentation here, is maintenance on the buildings, and making sure that it's being done. I have heard from some residents that concerns about their particular situation, and that's why I asked Mr. Russell to give me the work orders and the inspections so I could look at them. I'm an architect in my other life, so inspections, punch lists, reviewing construction, reviewing things isn't unusual, and also reviewing construction costs and all that good stuff. So, what I'd like to do, if we could, with that, what caught my eye was the unrestricted that we just were talking about, and
I saw your presentation.
all right, good. Well, then a statement, I think, from the board on the how the unrestricted, the three I guess line items you have here: the business activities operating fund, which has $1.5 million in it, the development account that has $1.6 million, and then in the investment account, a development investment of 2.8. Just, I mean, similar to what the discussion we just had, you know, what you need it for. That'd be helpful.
Well, I can tell you one of the goals that we set for William earlier this year was to actually start looking at property further south outside of the city, you know, and other.
Sure.
So, you know, I know that's literally one of the goals that he's been working on for the next year. So, you know, we might not be the developer on, but, you know, hopefully the board in 10 years or 20 years, you know, will have the same opportunities that we have to do on development.
I can understand that. You know, where the county, in my opinion, is behind the city as far as affordable housing and getting that together. And one of the items that we've are tackling now and having staff look into is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Right now, we do have a fund, but it's only funded when we have a disaster.
Sure.
Or it's a related situation.
Pandemic.
Huh?
Or a pandemic.
Or you know, exactly. Really for disasters to fill the fund. So that's not really a game plan. And so I appreciate the fact that one of the things we're looking at is how we can fund that fund through perhaps property appraisals going up due to rezonings and things that the county commission does. With the thought of perhaps having to purchase land,
Sure.
because land is the big item when you're doing a project, as you all know. But I think a written statement.
Okay, so I just want to
Sure.
clarify. So you want a written statement,
Sure.
addressing the the business activities,
Right.
development, and that, and and unrestricted cash.
Right.
Okay, for the board. Okay,
Sure. And then if you have the policy on the restricted funds, that'd be helpful too. And I suppose it's written somewhere, right?
About like that.
Well, you know, if you got the Cliff Note versions, that would work too. But anyway, that's what I wanted to talk, because the 5.9 million is a lot of money, and then when you come before us looking for a few million, you know, questions come up. So anyway, that's all I want to talk about in that. Now, again, I'm thankful to William and Victoria, so, and emailing him the things I was looking for. I will say it's a little puzzling to me. Again, as a why HUD would still wants to score off on things like fire doors and electrical. You get a pass for another year as far as it being counted off. However, you still have to do something about it. But it just, and also the fact that, and this is my opinion, if you have an issue with electrical and it's a deficiency, and if you have 3 others in the unit, you only get deducted for the one. So the severity of the deficiency isn't noted in a report, which, again, but it's not you guys. I understand, but thank you for the paperwork so I could look at it. That's something to be taken up at a higher level, obviously. But the inspections and the work orders, and what I've done, again, I want to thank you all for getting these to me. What I've done is I basically have the 3 inspection reports and the work orders that went along with them. And what caught my eye is, at first when we first met with him, I was adding up all the numbers, all the deficiencies, and that didn't match the cover sheet for the score. When you add up all the deficiencies, subtract from 100, this is not what we're getting. But then after our meeting, I realized that there's a lot of duplicates and in here. For instance, in Bertha Mitchell, there's 23 units that had deficiencies and 2 had none, but there were 90 duplicate deficiency entries in this report and 97 missing photographs. 91 of those was from duplicate deficiencies. So the question I have, why is there duplicate entries? And I don't know how familiar you are with this. And one of my questions was, is there a staff member at the Housing Authority that reviews these inspections reports when you get them?
Of course.
Well, then you must have questioned, why is there a duplicate?
It's not our report.
But so,
We're downloading it literally.
well, I
overnight.
understand, but anyway, that's a question. And I plan on asking HUD myself, but I just didn't know if you all knew why there was duplicate entries. And one of the issues that I found, and this is a suggestion. In your inspections, HUD gives you a what they call a deficiency name. It's more like a number, but each one is unique. And what I found in the work orders, that deficiency number isn't on your work order. So what I've discovered by looking through all this is there was deficiencies that weren't picked up. And again, I was able to find them because I compared every work order with every deficiency. So that's a concern. For instance, there was no worker. This happens to be in Bertha Mitchell. There's no work report on this particular deficiency, so I have to assume that the work wasn't performed. Right? I mean, the only way you know if anything gets done is if the work order is issued. And so that's my comment on that. But there's a few examples in there of that. And then in the work order itself, Bertha Mitchell was done in 24. And in 24, it was noted in the description to take pictures and also please bring the outlet tester and check all receptacles, including GFI, and fill out the pre-Inspire checklist, which is attached. However, in 25, that's no longer a requirement. And if you go through these work orders like I have, you'll find that not everything in the description was actually done in the work order, because there's a description of what needs to be done, and then there's a work completed. And in some cases, not all, but there are some cases where there's no listing of what the item that was on the work order, but didn't say it was completed. And again, is there somebody here checking to just check to see if the work that's supposed to be done is actually done on the work order? So anyway, I've noted those in there also. And then I had a question about this checklist. Again, in 24 is required to check the electrical. In some cases, the work order, there's a signature by the person that actually did the inspection. But under completed, they all say NA. I'm guessing not applicable. But there are some work reports that there's no signature at all. And so, again, this is again in 24, we'd like for you to check all the electrical outlets. But under in the custom checklist section, electrical outlets to be checked and the GFCI protection, it's just NA. So I'm guessing that it wasn't checked. Again, it's safety, safety of the residents. And I'd like to know why it was taken out of, you can write up an email later, you don't have to answer these right now. But, again, I'm here to make sure that the money that we give to the authority for these wonderful projects, that we're also maintaining the projects for the citizens as well. And that's my main concern. Life safety and welfare, and that's what we do as architects. And I know that's what you all are concerned with too. So that's let me look down my list here. And hi there.
Sorry, Commissioner.
It's all right. I left you a packet. You can read it and get back to me.
Yeah, I need some more light reading.
I know. I think I may have covered it. The questions about on the secondary checklist, as far as when it's signed, what does it mean? If it doesn't say that it's completed, so it's completed. I have been invited by some residents to look at some of their units, and so I'm going to be doing that. And I don't know if William wants to join me, but I know that Philip Di Maria had volunteered. But if any of y'all, obviously I got to get permission, and when I get invited by the folks who got invited me, so I'd be more than happy to have.
Oh, I'd be more than happy.
If more than Philip, we have to advertise.
Oh, well, then maybe just one.
There's that.
I understand. There's
Only if they expect to speak. They can listen, they can't speak.
all right.
If I
Well,
were you, I wouldn't go.
anyway, that's all I have.
So much.
My suggestion would be to tie these inspections to the work orders with that number, and just double check, just to make sure the work's getting done.
Okay, I appreciate your comments and your concerns, and we will get back with you with a statement.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah.
So I did watch your presentation, and I know you were asking about like the Bertha Mitchell and their scores. And
Well, that's before I got the
Okay.
before I got the booklet.
okay, 'cause we're also doing, it's like what, $3.5 million of renovations over there. So we know they're old and old properties, and and it's constant maintenance, and
Also, the voucher program. If you could send me what the policy is on the voucher program. I know I've heard from some folks that.
What do you mean by that?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean by the policy?
Well, for instance, I had heard in Cypress Square, and I'm saying it's 100 units. I'm not sure. Cypress Square.
84.
Huh?
84.
Okay, 84. Out of 84 units, not all 84 got into the new building, but the ones that weren't into the new building got a voucher. And that's what maybe I need some help with, in that my understanding is the voucher is good throughout the state.
Anywhere.
The country.
The country, okay. Well, the thing is, these are folks that probably don't have a minivan and can pack up and go anywhere in the country. And so I'm just curious as to what is your priority on vouchers? Are we able to get the people that are displaced during construction into other housing units here in Sarasota? Or are we helping them go to Manatee County or Charlotte or Miami or Orlando or Atlanta? I'm being a little facetious there, but because I want to make sure, as I grew up here, as many of you have, that we're helping our people first, and they're not losing their housing through progress. And so that's my ask.
Can you send a relocation plan?
That's what I was going to say.
So in Cypress, which is the case you brought up, that was a rare opportunity where we had a new development grand opening at the same time that we needed to relocate the other 64 families literally right next door. The board set a policy that we would accept 25 of those 64 families who already had vouchers to move into Cypress. On top of that, we committed 25 project-based Section 8 vouchers to be part of the 84 units. So really, we committed to have essentially at least 50 of the 84 be subsidized, which is kind of unusual, right? HUD generally doesn't want a high percentage of units to be subsidized and concentrated in one building. In this case, 3 buildings. But that's how the board set that policy. We're going to allow 25 to transfer next door. We're going to have 25 project-based vouchers for previously unassisted families can apply and move in and have subsidized assistance. Everyone else relocated, the remainder of the 64. A couple of them moved into Bertha Mitchell. But it's their choice where they go with that voucher. We can't keep them in Sarasota County.
Well, I realize that.
But understand one thing, Commissioner. I'm
Sure.
sorry to interrupt. The idea with HUD is they don't want concentrations in one spot of everybody being voucher-based. They want to spread that out as much as possible. That's why we try to spread it out to all our buildings. Because it's not good if people just see people we're trying to promote family values. We're trying to promote people who want to work or who are working in conjunction with their voucher. I have nothing against Section 8 vouchers. I think a lot of people need them to fill that gap between what they really earn here in Sarasota and what they're going to have to pay for rent. But we try to make them available to all. And some people decide they don't want to work to pay the extra rent, and we have to try and house them. But some of them go to Manatee. I don't know any that go to Charlotte, honestly, but that's just me. But Manatee County is a viable option for a lot of people.
Okay.
And whenever we do any development, so we have to submit a relocation plan to HUD. This is for everybody.
Sure.
So we got to do something. The first thing is they want to know where everybody's going, and some places, like William said, it's really easy. But like I can tell you, I've done some of these we might do something in the Keys, and trying to move somebody one place to another in the Keys is impossible. So sometimes when you have like that, kind of
Sure.
easy thing, it's like great, I can take them here, and the cost savings, and they have a new place to live, and so. But yeah, there's always a relocation plan, whatever.
Well, if you could share that with me, that'd be super.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, then. I think that's it. Do you have any questions for me? All right.
Maybe after we get done.
Well,
Not at this time.
yeah, that's fine. No, that's this time. That's fine.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Sorry, I missed most of it. I apologize. My
I
wife was
missed
there.
you too, John.
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
sure you did.
Okay, we're going to move on to comments regarding Inspire inspections. Dennis DeBello, American.
So I just wanted to kind of introduce Dennis. Quick bio on Dennis. He graduated from, I looked this up, but he graduated from Penn State University with a mechanical engineering degree. Became a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy. And has been the chief inspector for the American Property Consultants for 29 years or so. But our industry knows Dennis as the foremost expert on Inspire, which is still pretty new for our industry. We brought him in a few months ago to do an Inspire training for our Section 8 landlords. It's very new for them. So that was very, educational for them. And then Dennis just had an Inspire training for FARA, our state association, where a bunch of housing authorities just attended that, including some of our staff as well. So I invite Dennis to just talk to the board a little bit more about understanding the scoring process for Inspire.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Make sure this is working. So I was invited to explain a little bit about the scoring, and this is kind of an important thing, but not quite as important as all that money that you were talking about. That was quite an insight for myself to see all that. You guys have a pretty complicated job, so I'm just going to try to keep this as simple and concise as possible in terms of the scoring. But the first thing I have to do is I have to let everybody know that this particular scoring system is not what you would think of in terms of normal numbers. In other words, like in your accounting that you were just seeing, everything adds up. Well, it doesn't add up here. We used to have a scoring system before this where literally 1 + 1 did equal 2. And what I mean by that is you took your 100% of the scoring, like a scoring rubric when you're taking a test, where the score of the 100% is divided up over your components of the test. And let's just say you have 10 questions on the test. Each one's worth 10% of the score. That adds up to be 100%. Well, we had a scoring system like that, but it was really complex, and it didn't always produce the kind of results that HUD wanted. So they actually created a new scoring system, and it's really what you should think of as like a straight deduction system, and more like a penalty system when I talk about it. So in that regard, as you'll see when I go through these slides here in a minute, we set up a deduction for a type of defect associated with a certain type of health and safety in a specific location, especially in the unit. And we subtract points off. Well, if we keep subtracting points off, we could actually subtract way more than 100%. And because of that, then HUD turned around and they made some common sense concessions in that we only score something once for the first time it's found in a specific location. And a good reason for that, if you think of something for a moment, if you have a resident in the unit and they decide to paint some of the walls in the unit, which some of the housing authorities let them do, and they take all the cover plates off the wall, if you took 3 points off for every cover plate that was taken off the wall in a unit when the real estate assessment center inspector comes out, you could easily have 600 points taken away in just one unit. So the idea there is that the first time they find a specific type of defect, they will subtract that deduction, and with the rest of the times, it's actually noted and needs to be repaired, but there's not a subtraction. Now, everything I talk about here has written documentation in that particular Federal Register notice that's on this front page here. So if somebody wanted to go and pull that down, you'll find the documentation that I'm talking about here. You all can see the presentation slides, I take it?
Yes.
Okay. So the new scoring methodology with Inspire, again, different than the old scoring methodology, it focuses on the resident in the unit because that's the most important thing on the property from the standpoint of health and safety. So we take this scoring methodology, takes a defect and it converts it into a numerical deduction, essentially. It focuses in on things that are in the unit because that's where health and safety is the most important, and it'll impact the resident in that unit. There's actually 4 levels of health and safety that the inspector is identifying when they're out there. They're looking at life-threatening things where people could be injured and seriously possibly die. There's things that are severe where there's a high risk that you could have an injury, but it's not as high as life-threatening. And then you have moderate health and safety, and those deficiencies are more of what we call function and operability versus a safety and health. And you see those headings on the page there. In function and operability, everything provides a function. A window provides light, ventilation, and egress, and of course, that is a different function than say, a wall which seals an area off. So each one of these has an associated repair time. Moderate is 30 days, and then low fits into this 60 NA type thing, where we do have some things in terms of we want it to look nice, but from a health and safety standpoint, it really doesn't affect the resident in the unit, so it's a 60-day type repair. When you look at how they came up with this scoring system, they took the areas that were inspected, outside, inside, and unit, and they related them to these 4 health and safeties, like threatening, severe, moderate, and they also call low advisory. And as you can see here with the little balls in the square, the closer we get to something life-threatening in the unit, the more emphasis we actually have on that. And the way they did that is they turned around and they assigned numerical values in this valuation table, and then simply you take how many defects you find of each type and you multiply it by those defect values, you divide by the total number of sample units that the inspector looked at, and you actually get the scoring deduction to generate the score. So the values look like this. They range from a low in outside of a 2 to a 60 in the unit. When we turn around and take those values times how many defects that we have in those cases, then we actually can do some math here, which is a little complex to some people when you're looking at this. Of course, being an engineer myself, this is something I obviously look at and understand very quickly. But we're going to turn around and do this for the outside, inside, and the unit in respective columns, because if the majority of the defects are in the unit, then there's a penalty there as well in terms of the score. HUD recognizes this is kind of a complex process in terms of the way they do this. But again, what we're doing is we're taking a specific defect, we're classifying the health and safety associated to that defect, we're labeling it with the area that it occurs in, and then that there dictates how much we lose in terms of the scoring. And of course, something that is a low health and safety outside has little effect on the resident in the unit, but something that's life-threatening in the unit has a large effect. So that's why they did it this way. But remember, this is a straight deduction process, so it's not distributing 100% scoring over the property, which they used to do. And under the old system, a unit could never lose more than like 1.5 to 2 points. Now, a particular unit can fail the whole entire inspection. So this process actually takes into account safety in the unit more than anything ever did before. There are, because of that effect, there are things that they don't score. And one of them is if I have a repeat inspection in the same respective area, which could be a unit or inside a building or outside. And then there's things that we never score because they're so prominent in this type of multifamily housing that if we just scored things like smoke detectors, then they would drown out anything else in terms of what goes on. And the majority of the issues with smoke detectors, unfortunately, is a resident behavior in terms of they're in charge after the maintenance goes out the door. Maintenance is going to go in there, put that smoke detector up there, make sure it works. Resident, once the maintenance person leaves, they can decide what they're going to do. And of course, we find them without batteries, we find them taken down. So we don't want that to dictate the score, because that would be like the highest effect in every unit in terms of the scoring. And then there's some things where down the road, HUD has actually decided that if you want HUD funding, you're going to have to upgrade to some of the aspects of the current code where that's not normally required unless you make a major modification. One of those things that people understand right away is where things like GFCIs are installed, ground fault circuit interrupters. In 1984, they started putting those in kitchens and bathrooms, and then from there they went to other areas, and new construction today actually has a whole new electrical safety device called an arc fault versus a ground fault. So HUD has actually got this thing called affirmative habitability requirements where they're going to require those, but they're not going to require those until down the road some way to give people an opportunity to incorporate those in. So since this scoring is complicated, they have actually made a Microsoft Excel macro here where you can actually plug in your numbers for your inspections, and this is how they calculate it to begin with. And as you can see on this calculator that they have here, we have our severity levels down the left-hand column, and across the top we have our 3 inspectable areas, outside, inside a unit. The first table shows all the defects that were found on the property respective to those areas and respective to the health and safety. And then what happens next, step number 2, is you subtract out the repeats. So the repeats aren't scored because they know that this is not a 100% based system for points. And if you took away points for everything, you've essentially weighed the unit life-threatening way too heavy for you to use all the deductions. So this is how they chose to do it, and statistically they are satisfied that this produces the kind of result that they want to have. So this is what they're using. So with that, I'll try to keep it simple there in terms of how that scoring's done, but I'll just summarize it again. It's not a system that is based on distributing the points like a rubric across what you have as features on your property. It's a straight deduction system. Therefore, they made the choice because if they took points away for everything the way they defined the point subtraction, you could end up with 200-300 points deducted. So they just realized that, okay, if we've got that same defect issue in a respective area, that we'll call that a repeat, 0 deduction. You still have to repair it, just like you would normally, but we're not going to take the points away. So with that, I'll just end the presentation and stop the sharing there. And if you have any questions of me now or later, I would certainly be willing to answer those.
Thank you for your presentation. Commissioner Meredith?
Yes, I was curious if there's any way to tie these to work orders. Do they have a setup that does that automatically, or is that typically a manual process?
Well, now we're talking about the HUD database, and we're talking about what HUD has chose to give as reporting. Now, when you go into the HUD database, they take each and every defect and they associate it with a QR number. That QR number does not come over in your report, and you don't really, the report's the only thing you can download. So you have to manually figure out which defect in the report is associated with which QR number. So there's no one-to-one correspondence at all. They're using a Salesforce-based data here. They're paying millions of dollars for this software, and every time they want something new, they got to pay for it. So they've been really reluctant. We started this new system in July of 2023, and they've been really resistant to make changes to accommodate us as the audience because they've had to make a whole lot of changes for themselves to make the system work.
What's the problem with why aren't they releasing the QR codes?
Say that again?
The QR codes? You say it doesn't come with the QR codes?
No, the report does not come with QR codes. It's online. You can do screen prints on it, but you can't even read what the description of the defect is on that level. You have to click on each QR code and open it up just to figure out what that particular defect was. And again, if it was something you and I were doing and the software folks were working for us, we would say, hey, write us a new report. This one doesn't work. It makes it quite complicated. To give you an example, I wrote an appeal for somebody. It took me 4 hours clicking through 10 or 12 times to enter things and figure out where I needed to put things, and I was appealing about 10 items. It's really cumbersome. It would be nice to be able to port this over and write into your work order system, but there's no way to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Okay. Well, we'd like to thank you for the information that you've given us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I would like to thank you guys for doing the great job. We need this housing, like people have been saying, and I've been all over the United States. I probably got 44 of the 50 states under my belt now. and I've seen housing all over, and there's a real need for it, and you guys are doing a pretty great job there, so keep it up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to move on to public presentation. We have quite a few here, about 7, and so I just want to remind you that there's a 3-minute limit on your comments and concerns, and that they will be addressed later, not today, but you will get a written address to it. Yes, can I help you?
Mary Ellen said she was not going to present today, and that she would do it next month.
Now, which one is that, Mary Ann?
Yes.
Dean?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Miss Valerie, would you like to come first, please?
Good afternoon.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Fine.
Okay. The first thing I want to address, which I talked to Mr. Russell already, several people that are on the voucher program got notices, right? First of all, these notices was inadequate. A lot of people got notices in the middle of October talking about rent increase. We pay our rent between the 1st and the 5th of the month. Now, on this housing authority paper, it has printed on 8/25/2025, but yet the housing authority never sent me a letter stating that it was increased. I did my research in June or July, okay? So, and then I get a late fee because I pay my rent on time. It was reversed, but many people didn't get that opportunity. And when I say a lot of people, a lot of residents in Janus Garden, now I don't know where else they stay, but my point is I should not owe $91 without an increase on my rent without being notified. Now, that should be on the housing authority. We should have at least 30 days prior notification before this takes place. So I should have not been, and then when I calculated 30% of my income, it's wrong. So I've been overpaying all along. But just for clarification, 30% of my income is not what I've been paying. And I don't have a problem with the increase if it's due, but you don't print something, because see, if I had to go to court, the SHA could say, oh, we sent this out in August, and no, it didn't. You know when I got it? Well, first of all, Janus Garden put it on my door because they know that I pay my rent, and it was attached to my door. So the caseworker, whoever they are, they did not get these out in a timely manner. So now it has caused residents to have $75 increase on their rent. Okay? So I know that time is up, but that's all right. I need 2 more minutes. Saturday we had a Big Mama Collard Green Festival. Now, if y'all don't want it, that's fine. But we recognize for the oldest business. And nobody from the housing authority thought it important to come. But we presented the City of Sarasota Housing Authority for giving service to residents since 1938. So this was a dedication, this was a plaque, just recognizing y'all. Because we don't agree, that don't mean I disrespect y'all at all.
So,
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Valerie,
Yes.
You know, my buddy and I got third place like 2 or 3 years ago in that, right?
You did.
Go look it up, Olin Greeler.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Don't say people don't come. Just because we don't see you doesn't mean we didn't come through.
I thought it was this week. Okay, the next person is Melissa Furman.
Anyway, I'm just basically here to talk to you all about, I live in the neighborhood, and I'm a resident down the street, and there has been some stuff in the wind about a garage going up here in front of the towers. Now, when I moved here, this was a very shaky neighborhood, and nobody came out of this building. It was scary, because there was nobody around, and we're between the homeless shelter and the Salvation Army. So that's all you see walking down the street. Now that people have moved in, people are coming out, and they're enjoying that garden outside in front of you and everything else. And they want to put a tower there to take away the view of the residents here. And who's it going to benefit? It's going to go up. They're going to have traffic. They're going to have noise from trucks servicing that area. It's going to make the street noisy, and it's just, they won't have any blue sky anymore. They won't have a place to walk their dogs. I personally enjoy walking past the towers right now, looking at the beauty of it. And I was sitting here looking at these winds, the wind blowing these trees out here. Those trees will go away, and you won't have wind coming through here if you build those garages. I don't think the rest of the neighborhood really particularly wants it. It's going to bring crime. And when I was talking to my neighbor, Dave Lowe, he said, well, don't you know, we're going to need some parking for the private club that's going up on the corner of 41 and Boulevard of the Arts, in that building that's over there. That they didn't put enough parking in for the residents, and there's going to be, it's called the 1000 Club. It's an exclusive club. It costs a lot of money to join it, and you have to be asked to join this club. And they're going to need parking, and that's part of the proposal for here, as well as for the SPAC.
Okay.
So if you guys want a bunch of parking and no views anymore, and you want to trash the quality of the life of the residents here, then go ahead. But it's going to be a detriment to the whole community.
Okay. Thank you for letting me concern.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is David Lowe.
Hi there.
Hello.
I am. Sorry.
You're out of time, David.
Okay. I'm David Lowe, a neighbor. I live right down the street. I think I know a number of you for years, going back 7-8 years. And the first thing I want to say is to recognize what you are doing. My eyes roll over when I hear the gentleman talking and swaps and credits and payback. So I don't know how you do it, but you are doing an incredible job. I think you know. I've been to your ribbon cuttings, and it's just wild what you're doing. So first of all, hats off. The Rosemary District is changing. We even have a tattoo parlor down the way now and a skateboard shop. So talk about a neighborhood that is evolving and eclecticizing to some extent. Think back to 2018, if you can visualize the corner of Central and Boulevard of the Arts, the derelict building we have, what transformation there's been with the park there. There's a plan to underground all the utilities along Boulevard of the Arts streetscapes, what you've been doing with your building and your paint job, which we all enjoy. So again, I've got some spreadsheets here, but let me just cut to the chase. There are 500 new dwelling units under construction today in the Rosemary. There are 500 more planned. We will go from about 3,500 people in the Rosemary to around 5,000. So as you consider your new project, which I totally support, please, public parking is something to support. I think there's going to be a better chance for you to get the exact, more of the kind of retail that we want, the community wants. Maybe a moonshot, but a pharmacy or a little grocery store for milk and whatever. So it's about supporting the community, and I would hope that I and others in the community have tried to do what we can to support you folks at planning board meetings. William, we like to speak there. So a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I've done some renderings on what my vision might be, but I'm urging you, as you consider a public parking, that you take into account the benefits for us all collectively for servicing and growing our community, and maybe a second tattoo parlor. I don't know if we'll have the need, but thanks again for what you do, and please consider this need for both the housing, which is incredible, and lofts too, but some public parking and working with the city. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Melissa
Laughlin.
Excuse me, could you say?
Laughlin.
Laughlin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Melissa Laughlin, and I am president of the Rosemary District Association. So I'm here, as all of us in the room are, I think, for a love for Rosemary District. And I wanted to congratulate you on all the work that you're doing and bringing more housing to the Rosemary District. You guys have been longtime tenants. You've been catalysts for growth here and are such an important fabric of the community, both McCown as well as Lofts on Lemon. So thank you for all of that. I agree with David. This work is so complex. It's like mind-blowing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about both the opportunities and the trade-offs for including public parking here. The opportunities are enormous. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. The need for parking right now is right now, and the need in 5 to 10 to 20 years is now. And parking is not about parking, or else we wouldn't be talking about this. It's about people. It's about economic development. It's about jobs. And it's about being the best neighborhood to live, work, and play. And without parking, this neighborhood can't do that. Lofts on Lemon, I think, said it best on their website. They said, "We are ideally located to offer quick access to shopping opportunities, top-notch schools, dining option, and well-known employers." And that's what we want to keep, and that's what we want to grow in this neighborhood. And I think this is an opportunity to do that, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do that, that will impact us for generations to come. Now to talk about the trade-offs. We know that there's trade-offs for any visionary opportunity. One, we hear from residents a lot of concern about including parking here. So we've got safety concerns, security concerns, accessibility, convenience, noise, all valid concerns, and all what I think should be an imperative if the parking happens. I think it's imperative, and Sarasota Housing Authority does a great job of listening. And we know through best case examples, in the country and the city, that parking can be done in housing that can be safe, secure, accessible, convenient. So we feel that this is an addressable problem if handled up front in concert with the needs of this particular community. Secondly, complexity. My gosh, you guys have enough of it as it is. This does add complexity. Complexity, just like the other one, is something that is addressable. It's within the capabilities of Sarasota Housing Authority and all the expertise that you all have. This is something that is a short-term issue that can be resolved. And it's something, I think, just like the safety and security, it can be addressed. And in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now, in 50 years, that's not an issue. So I just encourage us to consider all the trade-offs, listen to them, and keep that vision. There's lots of reasons why not. Let's also keep that why for 50 years from now about this opportunity.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your concern.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next person is Melissa.
That was her.
Oh, that was her. I'm sorry. I don't want to. Anand?
Yeah.
Anand? Oh, hold on. Anand.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Thank you for your time. I want to echo what some of the other speakers have said about the work that you're doing to advance this neighborhood. I've been in this neighborhood for a long time. I first set foot in it in 2006, so almost 20 years ago. And as another person said, it was a scary neighborhood back then. What I've seen happen over the past 20 years, and probably more so over the past decade, is the transformation of the Rosemary District and the vibrancy that is being cultivated through the blend of both retail and the tenant population mix, whether it's condos, apartments, or this building in particular. And one thing that always amazes me is just the diversity that exists in this neighborhood. We have everything from multi-million-dollar condos to Section 8 housing, and it's that diversity that creates this tapestry in this community that, in my opinion, makes this the greatest neighborhood and the greatest city on earth. And I think, to the point that's being addressed, parking, if there is a way to look at the lens of parking and find a way to make it amenable and applicable to the residents where it can be achieved, I think you set the neighborhood up for success. And let me explain why I say that. Since 2023, I've been running a longitudinal study for parking and the sentiment of people who are parking on the streets. We have the data. It's been collected for 3 years now. And the sentiment is changing, and it's changing because of the lack of available options when visitors come to this neighborhood. And the sentiment is moving towards the zone of saying, we leave this neighborhood when we can't find applicable parking. And I think that's something that we as a community should be cognizant of and be aware of, because ultimately it behooves us to set this community up for success and find a way to basically incubate what will be the next chapter of the Rosemary District and beyond. We're never going to solve the Bays parking issue. We're never going to solve the Van Wezel or the future Van Wezel parking issue. We have our own retail segment that has made this community walkable, accessible, and welcoming to everyone that comes within it. And I just wonder if there is a way to achieve a parking methodology in concert with the needs and the aspirations of the residents that isn't an eyesore, that gives this community some legs for the retail environment, because without it, I don't think we would have the vibrancy that we have here. And I think as we look to future generations, as we look to these kids that are graduating SSAS and the military school, we want them to stay here. Project Coffee is a kid that went to the military academy. He used to walk past the Ace Theater on the way home from school. He chose to come back to this neighborhood and establish his business. And to me, that's the type of success that we need to cultivate and an embracing. I realize it's silly, it's parking, but it is such an important part of the vibrancy of this community. So thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
Thank you.
Okay, next person and last is Pamela.
I am Pamela Runyon. I lived in the annex for nearly 8 years. And I'm just wondering again, thank you for doing the light, the fence and the lights out there. That's really a big help. But also I would like to know if we can do something with the equipment in the gym, because that would be very good for a lot of people. And some people have said that maybe it's a liability thing.
No, we're close.
Oh,
we're getting very close.
Oh, to doing that?
Yep.
All right, thank you. That was my concern.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you everyone for your concern.
Well, he turned that complaint around quickly.
Okay, now we're going to move on to resolutions. Okay, we have resolution. Excuse me, ladies, we still got to have a meeting
some
here.
more stuff to do.
Okay, first resolution, we have two resolutions. Resolution 2518, HCV Administrative Plan Amendment, and, Resolution 2519, HCV Payment Standards. Do we need to discuss either one of them?
No, I make a motion to accept.
Make a motion to accept. Second? Who's the second?
Mary.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, so those are passed. Now we're gonna move on to old business, development updates, redevelopment reports for McGowan Towers parking garage, new tower parking garage.
All right. We've got some, I think I'll move them up so the board can see them better. Sorry, audience. This is something we need the board's input on.
This is about the board. The board is going to be deciding on this.
In order by 1, 2, and 3. What does that matter?
I'll see these.
Yeah.
All right, Jake, do you want to introduce this? Joe or Jake?
Sure, I'm happy to talk about it. I think we mentioned this at the development committee, but effectively what you guys are looking at are 3 different potential unit types for the McCown, the new proposed 3 McCown Tower. And so the feedback that we had got from the 2 resident meetings that we had was that basically, sorry, give me 1 second here. The A1A, I think, was generally the favorite. And then there was also an A2, sorry.
AB.
A1B.
A1B,
Jake,
A1B, and A1C.
Correct. Yeah, sorry. I was just pulling it up on my own end, so I'm not referencing the wrong thing here. But yeah, basically A1A, A1B, A1C. I think the seemingly the least positive feedback was for C, and so wanted to give you guys these blow-up boards so you could take a look and just see if you had any feeling towards, one or the other, or, if there's a combo that we could do.
What do you mean?
What do you mean by a combo, Jake?
So
This is the board. He's addressing the board right now.
Yeah, so basically, let me...
I mean, my feeling is like on C, I would hate to have my bedroom
So
on the
commissioners, I
hallway.
mean, the big difference is the location of the bedrooms. And so the thought is maybe we do a friendly mix. So when you put the bedroom up against the window in the balcony, you obviously have that view, from your bedroom. However, I think most residents spend a lot of their time in the kitchen and in the living room during the day. And so do we focus on the units up there along the balcony and, keep the bedroom basically as a place to go to sleep that's dark and quieter? So I think that's really kind of the decision and thought process to make. I'd certainly propose a blend of the 2. But, certainly whatever the board thinks, we're open to thoughts there.
Yeah, my thing I see is like, man, if you're on the bedroom on the hallway, can you imagine every time somebody walking by and you're sleeping? And
Yeah, I think a blend of A and B is good.
yeah, I think a blend of A and B is.
Look at that here too. Hey.
Yeah, so when I say combo, I don't know if you guys can see the screen, but basically
I like it because you have
the units on the both the east and west are what would go for these spaces, and because they're all 525 square feet, they're relatively interchangeable. So the only comment was just that if there wasn't a specific unit type that everybody was a huge fan of, or they're both A and B, for instance, then we could do A on the west side, for instance, and B on the east side. That was the only comment about potentially doing a combo if there wasn't a clear winner.
You can send it if you need it.
I just wanted to say, is this different from the last meeting?
It's the same one as the.
Same as development.
Is there any? Yeah. I just didn't know if those were new.
No.
That sounds like a good option to me. Is having a combination of the 2,
Of the A and B.
separated by the wings, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So they can be stacked.
Aren't these predominantly units for, single people, single or elderly?
I mean, it could be a couple.
Yeah. I'm saying because I don't think most of them are going to need 2 bedrooms.
But no,
But no,
you can only show one bedroom elderly units.
balcony.
I think they're both
Okay,
good.
I see.
1A gives a nice open space that's open to the kitchen and living room.
Okay, I was
Which is going to be a good option for people.
Same thing as kitchen and living room area together.
Well, I think it's nice to have the balcony near the living room.
Yeah, that too.
That
Yeah.
way, people in the
Yeah, I
living
would
room,
see
they
that
can
too.
utilize the
That's why I
balcony
think it
as well.
blends good. They all both
Yeah.
have pros and cons.
Hey, Jake,
Yeah,
didn't you mention on one of these there was a half wall?
Yeah, yes. Or a window.
Yeah.
In this bedroom.
But
There was this one,
yeah,
okay.
so what we talked about was just on A1B, there was some feedback at the last meeting about that back wall where, the TV is in the living room and where the bed is back to the, that could be looked at more of, not like a full dividing wall so some light could come in.
Yeah,
So,
I just think that has to be investigated a little bit more. I mean, I think it came up in the development meeting, and one comment was because the bedroom didn't have any windows, is to bring borrowed light from the living room. But I think you have to really look at that from an overall design perspective when you're looking at ceiling heights, for example, and where that in head height. So like, are you really gonna be able to get the borrowed light into that room by doing that? And then also the height of it. Say if you got an 8-foot ceiling and then you're talking about putting like a, 1'6" transom window above that, how that just affects the overall space. And then when you have a TV on the other side. So I think that could be an option, but I just think it needs to be kind of totally vetted out and how that's actually going to function. And there's pros and cons to having that when you have a window. If you do have people in the living space and they're watching TV at night, you got somebody in the bedroom, then you got noise transfer. So although, conceptually borrowing that light might be a good idea, I think you need to really take a close look at it. But I think for now, if we at least decide on the units, we can kind of vet that out a little bit more when we see some interior elevations.
Okay.
I think that's all great feedback, and, we're ultimately not limited on the height on this particular project. We've, just got down to the 4 stories, as you know, for other feedback we've got, so I think we could definitely play with the floor-to-ceiling heights as well, like you mentioned. And it's hard for me to hear all the conversation you guys are having there, but is the general takeaway that you like both A and B, or is it a winner, or what's the takeaway?
Want to just do a little A and B combo?
A and B combo, right?
Should I make a motion
with that?
Okay, we'll make, yeah.
That we
have a motion.
we want a combination of both A1A and A1B for
Second.
the site.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Okay, do we want to talk about the public parking?
No.
Again? Okay, so we'll move that.
Oh, is the parking lot going on top of
Okay.
those units?
Let's move on to Lost on 11, Phase 2.
Do we need an answer today on it? We can push it to next meeting. Parking. We're all parked out.
Let's go on to Lost on 11, Phase 2.
Yeah, I'll keep the updates pretty short unless there are any major comments, but we had our owner architect contractor meeting today. Everything's looking great on Lost on 11 2. FPL lines are finally down, so that's great news. Starting to go vertical. No change orders to date. And yeah, Wiseman's doing a good job and ready to see everything going vertical. So I don't know if there's any specific questions, but all is well in Lofts too.
What was our target end date again? I know you sent us a schedule, just so I have it here. I forgot.
Yeah, so that should be delivered probably by Q3 of next year. Close that deal back in August, and so all things being equal, should be like a Q3, Q4 of next year.
Great.
That's pretty aggressive for that size building.
Okay. Can we move on to Amaryllis 3, Cypress 2, and Quartz 2?
So that on that deal, same thing. Farmer's doing a great job. Have some buyout savings there. They're right on schedule. Sure, if you guys drive by that property, you see all those buildings going vertical. I think with the exception of maybe one last FPL poll, we're trying to get FPL and the city to work together on moving. Everything's going well, so nothing crazy to report, and Marmer's doing a good job.
Who's doing that? Who's doing it?
Marmer.
Who?
Marmer.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Any questions or concerns about that? Next is Amaryllis 4, Cypress 3, Central Gardens, 22nd Street.
Yep, so that development is still in permitting and underwriting. Be with Bank of America. We had trying to think of the nomenclature, but basically the city's design review process a couple weeks ago got unanimous votes there. Really good feedback overall. So the designs look great. They're happy with everything that's being done by the Housing Authority. And we go to City Commission, I want to say it's the middle of November, for final approval on the AP4 part of that. The Central Gardens is done with its site plan approvals. And we had a design call today, should have construction plans by middle of November, and Marmer's been updating all the pricing on both those projects, the Central and AP4. So things are coming together. Should be able to get that deal out of the ground and closed by end of Q1 next year.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we have to go back and address the public parking.
When do we need a decision on all that?
Well, Jack, no, it's as you pointed out when you suggested it at the last meeting.
Right.
It was really to decide whether we want to go forward with it or not, so that we can let the city know. Yeah,
just not the whole thing.
Yeah. Because I do think before the city goes too much further in their imaginations, we need to decide whether we want to include public parking or not.
What's the sticking issue?
Well, I think it's up for discussion, and that's kind of was the point. That's why, it was good to kind of have some, I think we have some input from the residents, and some input from some of the community organizations, which is kind of, I think, helpful to help us make an overall decision.
So Jake, I think, Jake and or Joe, I mean, initially we had discussed having a 5-story residential building, and there was the potential for 5 levels of a parking deck inside the development as it's designed, with the residential wrapping the garage on 3 sides. But now the latest plans from the architect indicate 96 residential units on 4 levels. And we already know we need 3 levels of the garage in order to park our entire campus of residents, plus staff, which is not many, visitors, which we have to provide for, because some of our residents have daily visitors coming to care for them, stuff like that, provide various services. And then the city is going to require a certain number of parking spaces for the retail. So I think we've established we need the first 3, or we need 3 levels regardless. So if we only need 4-story residential building now, I'm not sure how that affects how much public parking, if the city wanted to pay for that, how much we could provide at this point without, having to go back up to a 5-story building, which of course brings in more expense for our development budget. So can you talk about that?
Sure. I think everything you said is spot on. The current plans that we have right now, basically are an accumulation of all the different resident meetings that we held, the board feedback, et cetera. At one point it was going to be a 160 unit job, and that seemed like it was going to be potentially too big for the area. So right now, based on lots of feedback, we were able to get the building down to 4 stories, which was going to protect the view of the existing residents of the McCown Tower building you guys are in right now. It was also going to allow that parking structure to get built faster than the units, so that basically that could go up quicker and have people out of parking for less time. So on the current plans as it stands right now, the first floor basically has approximately 74 spaces. I think most of the feedback that we got from the residents at those meetings was that it would be a challenge to control some security and noise and people respecting the garage long term. So I know that was pretty much the biggest feedback around there. So if that was something we considered, probably in terms of security at least and elevators and whatnot, probably try to limit that to the first floor to be about 74 units. And then I think the other biggest element up till now, I don't know if anything has changed, is that I know the city would like us to consider it, but I don't know about any funding commitments. And so we definitely have a big funding round that's coming up that we're going into for the county this week. County's been great partners on all these deals, so hopefully the county continues to do that because, without their support, it'd be hard to do all these great developments. So I think that's the other big fact pattern as well, and just where we land on that funding.
I'm not quite clear on the part. He said so. It's going to be four levels of residents,
Right.
and then how many levels of parking for the residents, and then what are
Three.
we proposing for? Okay, so 3 for residents, and then if we were to decided to work with the city, then they would get 1 level. Is that what we're proposing? And then how many spaces on that level would?
Reasonably, we could fit in an additional level, which I think roughly comes out to 78 units for an addition for parking. If we wanted to add a second one to go to 5 levels, I'm not sure how we would reasonably accomplish that. I'm not saying we couldn't, but again, it goes back to to Jake's point. Without some sort of public commitment to help fund it, then we have to move forward with the funding we have for the housing portion of it, and move forward with the 4 residential and the 3 parking.
What's the cost? Like how much is it?
We're napkin sketching about $50,000 a space for the parking. Again, that's all sort of up in the air until we can get a design solidified, but we can't get a design solidified until we kind of know whether or not we're going to do parking. So that's sort of the chicken or the egg issue that we got.
And just again, you say it's like approximately 75 spaces for 80 for each level.
Above the first floor, it parks 80.
Above the first floor, okay.
So that's 320 spaces?
But we're just talking 80 for public. If we do the
1 level.
We're doing 3
per level,
for sure.
correct.
I'm saying 320 for residents and then 1 additional level for public.
Yeah.
8 times 3 is 240.
I think the other biggest element that I've understood too, one thing is upfront cost, and then the other is just the ongoing maintenance cost and how that gets covered. And
that's it. Yeah, that's my
so
concern.
there's just a lot of elements to figure out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the opinion that I was looking to this a little bit further in the sense that I know that there are other parking lots in the city that have a combination of residents and parking. I guess I'm of the opinion that we could move forward with a level of parking for the city if we were able to, because I think there's also ways to help out with some of the concerns the residents had regarding safety and security. A lot of the parking garages that are built like on One Palms, for instance, they've done a very nice decorative kind of structure there. So I think there's a way to buffer and mitigate some of the sound. And also regarding the safety element, there's certainly a lot of ways that we can take care of safety. And then it would be only 1 level. So I'm in mind, if the city were to help pay for the cost of it, And then also where I think that we should be also, like you were saying, there's gonna be ongoing maintenance to that. I don't know if the city's planning on, charging similar to like State Street, but that's also a revenue generator as well. But I think if we were to propose parking on a site, that we should be, we should benefit, they should be paying for the parking for the construction of it, and then some type of monetary value to it for ongoing maintenance and possibly some parking. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Well, I'm in favor of the parking, because there's a lot of residents, not just residents, but a lot of people in the area need parking.
Yeah.
Let's be flat out about it.
Right.
And I told David Lowe that many times, that I'm in favor of having some measure of public parking.
Yeah. Because I know.
There's in the Mark, they have public parking. Palm Avenue has public parking. I mean, that's, State Street has public parking. So, that's the way it's going.
Parking garage.
Yeah.
Well,
They've got
I know
condos
that when
attached to it.
also when I go downtown a lot, I park in, I'm downtown on a regular basis, and even, on evenings, and it's nice to be able to have that parking. So.
We need to figure it out.
How about,
I mean, my concern is just the funding, so.
That's my concern, the funding, the safety of it,
But if we can find if the funding's there, if we get funding from the city, if the city wants to fund it, would you be opposed to it?
No. I mean, the one thing is, I wanted to also see if it's, can be a revenue generating source, and what that would look like. And, because here's the thing, is it could be just this enormous giant headache. Mm-hmm. And, we're making like nothing, right? And except, so, if it somehow can.
What are we going to do, give a ground lease?
I don't know.
So I guess what would the motion be, if we could find a way to work something out with the city financially on it, then we.
Well, one would be the city be okay with it.
Right.
We don't know. And, I guess I'd want to, we really have to think more about even the management of it, like what that would look like.
Thank you.
So, are we going to manage it? Are we going to hire a management company? Or, like there's what that would look like. So I'm not opposed to it, but I definitely I'm probably going to have I'm going to have a whole bunch of questions.
Because a lot of those will have, there's somebody working there too. The gate, you got a lift gate, the gate doesn't work, function. If it's
Right.
a paid lot, you need somebody, staff, office and all.
Commissioners, I give you some insight on that. I know the city's model going forward is a gateless system, like they're integrating on all their other garages. And so that minimizes it. I know that they would like to manage it, for their public parking. And again, it's pretty well all automated from their system with license plate readers.
Okay.
Just the one thing I want to highlight is, and it sounds like, short of your vote, the board is in favor of it. I think generally speaking, we're not against it by any stretch, but we run at the risk of losing funding for the funding that we have to build the units if we can't get, some direction here or a decision made where the door is closing. I'm still saying kind of by the end of this year. Maybe we can buy an extra 30 days, but that's sort of what we're backing into.
So whatever motion we get, we can tie that to a timeline. If you're saying at the end of the year, if we get
sure,
which I've repeatedly told the city that.
Yeah, and again, we met with the city originally almost 2 years ago about this concept before we even applied for funding. So it's not a new concept, and I get that it's a tall order to raise the funds to do it. I hear the neighborhood; they would love it. I don't think it'd be a bad thing to do, but we just have to. We're at risk of losing the funding for the housing, and that's the mission. First and foremost is to build more affordable workforce housing. Secondarily, public parking.
So I guess I'll propose a motion that we proceed forward with the parking garage if we can work out financial arrangements that we all agree with the city by the end of
So parking garage.
parking
with the
level,
floor,
one level.
One level
Yeah.
for the public.
One level for the public.
Okay.
Stated this correctly. Y'all got it?
Did you get
Is there
that?
a way to do kind of a-
Andrew?
I think so.
Okay, and I'll second.
Okay, and we've got a second.
Who's the second?
I'll second, but I have one more comment. Is there any way to get kind of like a pro forma, or like, you know, what it's gonna look like? You know, like I said, for us, what it would look like?
For the public parking?
Yep.
So, I mean, quite frankly, we've been assuming basically zero revenue, and per our last meeting with the city, that there was not going to be a revenue share from the city. So I think that's a further conversation. I know the city's working on a parking study. I think the parking study is reasonably going to say that, hey, parking's needed for the neighborhood. I think that's, I don't know how it doesn't. So I think we have to all move forward in good faith. But, you know, I mean, that's sort of I think we're at that fork in the road. If there's a commitment, I think the fork in the road, if I were the city, I would say either, hey, we want all the revenue for bonding reasons, like other garages, fine. Maybe it's a capital payment to SHA, sort of in lieu of them having to buy the land that they would otherwise have to build a garage. I don't have a performance put together for you. Just I'm not trying to dodge it.
No, I know. I just know when we decide this, we're going to make a lot of people happy and a lot of people mad. So, you know,
yeah,
I'm going to have all my
understood.
Well, I think we're going to have to, in order to make a final approval, we're going to have to understand what that agreement's going to be with the city.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be important.
I personally
Understood.
think it's incumbent on the residents to make their wishes known to the city. Because if they do not, you know the old saying, the wheel that squeaks gets the grease.
You mean for the public
Who do we
parking?
contact?
Yes.
We're talking about the public parking. That's what
Yes,
he's talking about.
me too.
Well, you can talk about, you have a call?
But who do you talk to about
The
it?
city.
That was a joke, never mind. Call the city, call your city commissioner. Notice how quick that came out.
Oh, look at the time.
So let me ask.
Well, it's not designed yet. We're just talking about it.
Conceptually.
Well, I live here, I have comments.
Well, you can have your comments, but we're just talking about a basic concept tonight to get this moving forward.
Yeah, we don't even know.
We don't even know if it's gonna fly
We
yet.
don't know.
So,
And it's going to, you know, they only have till, we don't even know if they can make a decision by the end of
There has to
end
be.
of the year, so you've only got 2 months.
Yeah.
I don't know what you said, it might be.
So-
But you can't even control the situation.
We gotta move forward.
So one of my things, I want to make sure that there's a benefit for the housing authority. Like,
That's my concern.
Right, oh, absolutely.
For the residents here.
For the
I don't want to
residents,
just do this and just
You know.
go and pay construction costs and that's it. I mean,
but I mean, you know, it's the reason why, like, when we were talking about the financials earlier, why we have money and we've generated revenue, and, you know, when we're not here, hopefully, they're even up, the next board's in a better position, right? So I want to make sure there is a benefit and a financial benefit, so then we can keep on building more affordable housing and more programs and more robust programs. But if it's just, like I said, it's just going to be a anchor on our neck, like, you know,
A giveaway.
like, then, I mean,
I think as we generate some revenue for it, it'll be beneficial, or it's not going to be worth
but I just want to make sure that there's 100%, you know, like we're thinking strategic and long-term, and like I said, not just putting an anchor on a future board, you know, so.
We have a motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor.
Question.
I'm just still. Okay, we're gonna go for the vote, because I'm still against this whole thing. Okay.
The motion is from Commissioner Meredith to proceed if a financial arrangement can be made with funding from the city for one level of parking, public parking,
it. By the end of.
Okay.
by the end of the year.
By the end, okay. Motion,
I second it.
second.
Yeah,
We're in a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Anyone against? I'm against.
4-1.
I'm against.
And Madam Chair, before you go to your next item, I'm afraid I have to alert you to the fact that you're
Okay,
coming
yeah.
up on your 2 hours.
Okay.
So we need a vote to extend.
So we, do we have a motion to extend?
I have a motion to extend by
Extend.
15 minutes,
Okay, everyone in favor?
5 minutes.
Aye.
Aye. All,
Aye.
anyone against? No, okay.
So who was the second for that?
It was Cologne and
Morgan.
Motion, second.
I thought Jack made it.
No, I didn't.
And what was the time frame that's going to be extended?
Oh, for the extension.
5
So
minutes.
it's 5 minutes,
Make it 15.
5 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, let's do
Well,
10
we don't
minutes.
got-
Okay,
We have another meeting after this.
Yeah.
Well, I was including that one.
okay. Okay, moving on from old business, we will table the president CEO eval results. We're gonna table that. We have no new business. Can I have a motion to accept by consent the program updates?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Anyone against? Okay, comments? Commissioner Mason?
None.
Commissioner Meredith?
No, I'd just like to thank you for going through all the due diligence on that too, so that's really enlightening, so thank you for that. Sure.
Thanks for the light reading.
Okay, Commissioner Cole? Commissioner?
No, I'm good.
Comments? Commissioner Morgan? Okay.
No, I just, good job on Wayne, like I said, good job on the audit
No, that's
report.
true too. Yeah.
Okay, so we adjourn this
Stop that.
meeting at 6:30?
We didn't even get an extension.
Okay, now we're gonna move into our next meeting.
Hang on just a minute, let me just change this.